Testing the audio, check. Technical difficulties. There we are, that works now. Thanks for joining Extinction Rebellion for the day of our national fuel blockade and our first attempt at doing a live multi-stream across the nation. We have multiple different actions happening today that we'll be crossing to. We'll be chatting to some rebels around the country and engaging with a brilliant and beautiful day of action. So it is indeed a very good day. Thanks for joining us. My name's Tim. I'm currently in lockdown in Victoria and I'm going to be hosting the multi-stream today. Thanks for joining us. Before we get into any of the actions and rebellion today, I'd like to first acknowledge that this stream and indeed all of the actions that are happening in this stream take place on land that was stolen. I'd like to acknowledge the Yalukit Weelam clan of the Kulin Nation, the area where I am, who are the original inhabitants of the land. We'd also like to pay our respects to the elders of all of the respective places that we're rebelling and viewing from today, past and present, whose knowledge and custodianship of these lands and waters extends to time beyond our understanding. We honour the customs of these respective lands on which we rebel to the best of our ability. Because sovereignty was never ceded, we acknowledge those customs as legitimate. We acknowledge that the governance of these lands was not legitimised in any way with a treaty or with any participation from the voice of Australia's First Peoples. Concurrently, we're in the midst of complete climate and ecological breakdown, and we recognise at the forefront of our consciousness today the role that the autonomy of First Peoples is going to play in correcting the course of global heating. We're in the midst of an emergency, and the fight against the environmental degradation and ecological collapse has been inherent to the experience of First Peoples since colonisation. I like to just add personally that I think we've been gifted this concept of country as a unique way for us to connect with the land that we are sharing in this modern day, and I think it gives a lot of purpose to the ways in which that we rebel. Welcome to our first attempt at doing a national multi-stream. This isn't something that we've had a great deal of experience doing in the past, so please bear with us, but stay tuned because we've got a lot of really exciting actions happening today. I'd just like to sort of give us a bit of scope and perspective at this point during the stream and indeed the year, is that we are in a lot of trouble. We're in a lot of trouble. Emissions have gone up 60% since the treaties were first signed at the United Nations. We're expecting 4 degrees of heating in this generation's lifetime. We acknowledge that 2 degrees of warming is locked in if we meet all of our 2050 targets, and that's a catastrophic amount of climate breakdown, and the consequences that come with that are nothing short of widespread disaster. And so we're here today because we want to try and put the brakes on this put the brakes on this train while we still can. And in our case, those brakes are rebels around the country blockading fuel depots in the name of Extinction Rebellion. Climate change used to be about polar bears, but we're in the midst of a climate emergency, and we've realized that this means economic failure, crop failure, starvation, catastrophic weather events. This is the next necessary step. None of these facts are a skewed interpretation of what's currently happening. This is the best available science we have, and so taking action in the form of civil disobedience is now unquestionably a moral necessity. For if you have the privilege to know, you have the duty to act, and that is something that we hold very close. And so we are in open rebellion against the Australian federal government for 40 years of catastrophic refusal to take emergency action. Even as we speak, the Prime Minister is meeting the other G7 leaders to once again attempt to dodge setting any hard targets. And so we no longer have the time to wait for the government to act out of its goodwill. We no longer have the time to keep writing letters and to keep hoping that election results are going to help correct this state of collapse that we're facing. And so this is where we choose to rebel for the good of humanity. So we've got a number of actions happening around Australia today. Some of them have begun, some of them haven't. We'll be checking in with them periodically. The first section we've got is we are going to cross to a rebel from Victoria who were supposed to be currently outside of the fuel depot in Yarraville. However, due to COVID restrictions, the action has been delayed. And so we're going to cross now to Catherine Strong. How are you doing?
I am very good. How are you? Oh, I can't hear you now.
Sorry, still getting used to the software. Feeling excited about actions today because we're in lockdown, and it's good to see that it's still happening.
Yeah.
So tell us what you got up to before the lockdown happened.
So the group that I'm a part of, XR Westside, has been doing an ongoing series of actions at ExxonMobil in Yarraville over the last, we've been doing this now for, I think, over a year. So we started doing these things before the first lockdown even started. So we've been turning up on their doorstep and as often as possible letting them know that we are around and that we are paying attention to what they've been doing, that we have noticed that they've earned $33 billion over the last few years and paid absolutely zero tax on it, and that we've noticed that they are the fourth biggest polluter on the planet, amongst a whole bunch of other things. Like, we like to draw to people's attention as much as possible that they knew almost 50 years ago that what they were doing was going to have horrible, irreparable damage caused to the planet because of it. And they chose to, rather than stop, rather than reduce their profits, they chose to do things like engage in greenwashing and try and make themselves look as good as possible and try and put the blame on us, asking us questions about our carbon footprint and asking us to change the things that we were doing while they continued to profit and continued to pollute. And now what they're doing is they're leaving. So they're starting to shut down their refineries in Australia. The workers who have been loyal to them are being not shown loyalty in return. For example, in which could be transitioned to new jobs in a way that is also going to be good for the planet, but instead we're lagging behind and these companies are just going to get up and walk away from us and leave us with nothing. So we want that to stop.
Definitely. Have you got any plans to reschedule the action that was supposed to happen today?
Yes, absolutely. As soon as we have more information about when people can gather outside in groups of more than 10, we will be rescheduling. We are going to be back on the doorstep of ExxonMobil in Yarraville as soon as it is humanly possible to do it. Yeah, look forward to it.
And you've done it before to varying degrees of success. Tell us about that.
Yes, so we have done a few different things. Sometimes we have occupied the intersections near the refinery, and that's usually been a sort of not going on and completely stopping the traffic, but just going on and off with the lights. So we've still really held things up in that area. But more recently, what we have been doing is taking it more directly to Exxon, sitting right on their doorstep where the trucks go in and out of the refinery to get the fuel. And that was certainly what we were hoping to target today, to actually stop the fuel getting out of that facility. And when we get things up and running again, that's what we'll be trying to do.
No worries. And this has been like a nationally sort of a big national conversation around blocking the fuel. Is this a new thing for groups to be coordinating actions like this around the country at the same time?
I think that recently this is one of the first times that this has been happening. I think it's a really positive sign for Extinction Rebellion that we are starting to talk across state lines and across the country more often. And I think that we, from what I've heard, we can expect to see more of this sort of thing happening. And I think it's a fantastic way to show that it's not just a small group of people in one place who care about these issues and who want things to happen, things to change, that this is people across the country, across the world, from all walks of life. Anybody who's been paying attention to the science knows that now is the time that we need to act, and people are prepared to come out on the street. I think now that people are starting to get vaccinated, hopefully what will happen is we're going to see more and more people, because definitely COVID made people a little bit more cautious. And sometimes you just haven't been able to go out and do things. But I think that is going to start to fade into the background, and people are going to start thinking about the climate more again, which is what we need. We really need it.
Definitely. And before we carry on with the rest of the stream, is there anything important that you think needs to be said about what's happening with the climate and what to do about it?
Just, I think you said it earlier that the time has run out. Like, time isn't running out, time has run out. We are out of time. Action needs to happen immediately, if not 20 years ago. But since we don't have a time machine now, it needs to happen now. And I just want to do a big shout out to all of the other groups who are out there doing these actions today, that we are watching, and we love that you're out there, and just absolutely kill it.
Thanks very much, Catherine. And we will check in with Victoria a bit later. But thanks for joining us, and we're looking forward to seeing the action soon. The blockade will continue.
Thanks, Tim.
Excellent. So far, only a small handful of technical difficulties, but it's really good to see that the actions are still happening and that everything is on the go. So we've just heard from New South Wales that their action is about to go live soon, so we'll be able to cross to them, and we'll also be crossing to South Australia soon enough. While we wait, we're sort of just going live for the first time, and there's quite a bit of action happening on the socials. So thanks for engaging with it. We've got a number of different support actions which are happening around the country as well. We had today some rebels from our budget week blockade of Parliament House face court. These rebels were supported with a group out the front, made a nice outreach stall, and brought attention to the fact that there were peaceful protesters being seen by a magistrate for the actions that took place, which very successfully drew attention to the lack of climate in the federal budget this year. It is our understanding that there was a technical difficulty with the paperwork, and so the entire case got adjourned. A number of rebels were appearing by phone from interstate as well, particularly because Victoria is in lockdown. But this is sort of just a good example of what you can expect in the court system, is that a small hiccup creates a whole raft of delays. But these rebels are staunch as hell and are ready to take the fight for climate and ecological justice into the courtrooms and to give science its day in front of a magistrate. I know that a number of the rebels who were to be heard today were going to plead not guilty on account of an extraordinary circumstance, being that we're in the middle of climate and ecological collapse. The consequences of that are nothing short of completely catastrophic for humanity and for future generations. We know that this is no longer just about rising sea levels. We're having the very, very real possibility of mass starvation in our lifetime. We've been told time and time again by people, passers-by, government, police, etc., that we should do things the nice way and do things the legal way, that we should try and get the message out cleanly, nicely, and generally packaged in a way that is, I guess, reflective of bringing people in rather than pushing people away. But what we're currently facing requires the amount of action that we're taking. And when we do these disruptive acts, we do them with love and care for everybody that we come into contact with, because we are inherently risking our liberty and sacrificing a large number of things, particularly with elevated charges like this, to try and do everything we can, our most powerful action that we can do as an individual, to try and get action happening on the climate emergency. And so taking the fight into the courts is essential for us to make sure that what we're doing is going to have an effect on the justice for the ecosystems that are collapsing, so on and so forth. And so we have an action has begun in New South Wales. We're still trying to get our footage live from that one. It looks like we might be able to cross to them shortly. In the meantime, we have a small support action happening in Victoria, where there is a rebel doing some projections, who we will cross to soon. But we have been very proactive in our organising of this stream, and so we have pretty much none of these actions have gone live on the internet so far. But we know that rebels are in place, ready to go. We had an update from Western Australia that an action happened earlier today in support of the national fuel blockade. we've been in touch with them, and we're hopefully going to get someone onto the stream to have a chat to us about what happened, maybe share some photos, and let us know what that action was looking like, because the original plan of having all of the blockades happen at the same time naturally changed quite a bit with the extraneous circumstances. The reason that we take part in this civil disobedience and are trying to encourage as many people to take part as possible is because we know that it works. The whole I guess ethos of disrupting the public can seem a bit confusing, and disrupting workers even more so, because we're in a COVID economy, and the economic difficulties that we're facing are not as simplistic as standing in front of a gate and saying stop doing this. It's part of a very complex web of issues, but the social science says, and our the best research that we have, peer-reviewed scientific research on what movements are successful over time, tells us that when you have a mass mobilization of people from varying backgrounds and from different walks of life in society coming together to take part in strictly non-violent resistance, you are twice as likely to succeed in the long run as in the other case where you use violence as a tactic. And so Extinction Rebellion uses these 10 principles and values that we have, and our understanding of love and care for the people that we interact with as much as the planet, because what we're doing is we're trying to put as much resistance as we can onto the like political economic system that's causing this devastation without trying to use violence as a tactic. And we know that when you mobilize a certain amount of people to take part in civil disobedience at the same time, the effect becomes too great to ignore at the national level. And so we've got our eyes set on the federal government. This is one of those ways that we're trying to put some economic disruption into that system by taking part in civil disobedience and strictly non-violent direct action at these places, because we know that when people get together, sacrifice their liberty in this way, it shows that we're serious about what we're doing, and it's not so much about whether or not we're going to be able to succeed at stopping things at all costs, but rather we're trying to make it a accessible place for thousands of people to join us out on the streets. And so if you'd like to join Extinction Rebellion, the link is on our Facebook page, but you can also go to our website, which is ozrebellion.earth/get-involved. We'll be posting that into the chat on these various social media streams throughout the day. We will be sharing that information far and wide, because what we're trying to do is get a mass amount of people taking part in civil disobedience. And so with that, sorry, I'm distracted. We've just gotten live on Extinction Rebellion at Port Botany in New South Wales. We're going to cross to them, and we'll be back with you in a bit.
We're here to support meaningful action on climate change. Exactly right. Absolutely. I'd just like to add that recently we've had a very conservative organisation coming out and saying we've really got to stop investment in new oil and new coal and gas. right. Well done. Thank you very much. And how are you feeling with the cold weather and the rain? Yeah, energized. Yeah. yeah. Oh, good. Excellent. Very good. Martin, would you like to say something on Facebook? Come out of the noise a little bit for me. Now, Martin, tell me about you're a scientist background, are you? Is that correct?
I'm a marine ecologist, actually.
A marine ecologist. Just come over this way, away from the drums a bit more. Tell us a bit about your concerns with climate change from your scientific background.
For 40 years, I've been watching the biodiversity of the climate, of the globe diminish year by year, and it's heart-wrenching for me. And when Extinction Rebellion came along, I grabbed onto it with both hands because it's the only organization that I've found that seems to be fit for purpose. And it's sort of exhibited here in this action. It's in the rain, it's in the cold, but we've got more than 40 enthusiastic people who have spent weeks and weeks, hundreds of man-hours organizing this, and we have successfully closed down this port for 2 hours, and it's wonderful.
Good on you, Martin. And you're one of our most stoic rebels. You turn up to everything. You're based in the Blue Mountains, that's right, isn't it?
I'm based in the Blue Mountains.
Yeah. Yes, and you've been arrested. There's a very famous photo of you getting arrested in October 2019, wasn't it?
My criminal career peaked
Yeah.
in this place.
Yeah.
That has been downhill.
Yeah.
I'm prepared to be arrested again because we have to do something.
Exactly
Really
right.
We have to do whatever we can.
Yeah, exactly right. Thank you very much for your effort here again today.
Ben, I'd like to turn the phone around and interview Ben.
All right.
All right. Wait a minute, Ben. That's not you.
I pressed it on. There you go.
All right.
I've been doing a lot of talking.
Now, is it going?
Should be. Hang on. Rotate your phone.
Oh, okay. I'm not supposed to rotate it. All right.
Yeah,
Fine.
that's
I can do that. All right, Ben. Now, that's right, Ben. But you are one of the most dedicated and talented members of Extinction Rebellion. I mean, you're an inspiration to us. You know, you're always working behind the scenes, and you've got some real skills. And so,
I'm an occasional slay maker and bits and pieces like that, but yes.
yes.
Well, I think that's a great thing about XR is just this melting pot of skills that everybody has.
That's right.
And it's my skills, and thankfully there's lots of people doing very good my skills is the builder and carpenter maker, and made a few here and there.
Yeah.
It's liberating. One thing I'm just
Right. Doing whatever you can is the greatest way of relieving one's climate anxiety. Being active.
It's all altruism. It's the most selfless thing you can do is getting out here, giving your time, putting yourself in harm's way, and getting ridiculed or heckled by some kid in a rich street or whatever. But you're on the right side of
And XR has the coolest, most dedicated people around.
Yep. I'm a boring 42-year-old that I can do it. You guys. I'm going to turn this phone back around now anyway. I wasn't supposed to be doing me. Thanks, Martin. Good on you. Cheers. Dancing, keeping each other warm, that's the way to go. So you'll see the big yellow banner in the background there. It says Citizens Assembly. So that's Extinction Rebellion's third demand is to form citizens' assemblies and basically fix democracy. At the moment, we've got a pretend democracy that's we think we've got some sort of democratic power when we vote every 3 or 4 years. But the reality is our governments are completely captured by the lobbyists in certain sectors, which are all extractive and destroying the planet. So a citizens' assembly model is really about bringing democracy back to its roots, which I believe was from ancient Greece, where you'd actually pull together random members of the citizenry of the population, much like you do in a jury system in the courts. You pull together representatives from all different groups, different backgrounds, obviously sexes, races, all of that, and you put them together. You put them in citizens' assemblies where you educate them on an issue, i.e. climate change, and you get them to listen to the experts from all sides, and then they come together and deliberate on and come together to make a decision. It means it's out of the hands of political party donations, which corrupt decision making, as we all know. So it's an incredibly interesting and sensible model that we should be doing. So if you're curious to learn more about that, certainly Google Citizens Assembly, Extinction Rebellion. There's a very good podcast series on it. If you look at Extinction Rebellion's podcast series, I think it's about the 3rd episode. You can hear a great podcast about this idea from the UK. So that's one of the major things we've got to do. It's very hard to fix a broken system with the corruption that we have, the state capture that we have of our governments. We're getting a few toots, which is nice. They sounded like happy toots. Sometimes they're angry toots, but today they're happy toots. So your name was Matt, was it? Yeah. Matt, can you tell us a little bit about why you're here today? Your personal reasons or your thoughts?
Climate action and show my support for this event.
Excellent. Of course. And where are you from today, Matt? Where have you come from? Northern Beaches, excellent. Oh, good. Yeah, it's good. We're good to have some Northern Beaches representation. We haven't got too many members up there, I don't think. So we'll have to drum a few more from up your way. Yeah. And how many actions have you been to? Yeah. Have you been? Has that been Extinction Rebellion or a few other organisations?
Mainly Exile.
Yeah. Oh, excellent. And when did you? Have you been an activist for very long, or have you? Is it something that you fairly recent?
Yeah, I've been following this issue for a while. And doing Exile stuff since it basically started.
Yep. Excellent. Excellent. Well, thanks again for turning up today, especially on such a miserable afternoon. It's sort of not the most inspiring day to come and stand on a street corner, but anyway, we've achieved a good outcome today, and I suppose getting the message out there with every action we make.
Sure. Yeah.
Good on you. Thanks, Matt. Great. Cheers.
We're going to be crossing over to the other stream, which is coming out of this action in a moment shortly, and then we've also got Western Australia. Yeah, we got Western Australia, someone from Western Australia is speaking to us at the moment. And we will be seeing South Australia shortly, so stay tuned. Happening in Port Botany right here where this action is currently happening in New South Wales. is that because the action was widely organised publicly, the fuel depot put out a memo to its drivers saying that the entire station was going to be closed for the duration of the action. And so the original blockading plan has sort of already been done by the plant itself, and so there is going to be quite a severe amount of disruption, and it has been opted in by the petroleum company down there at the port. And so what the rebels are currently doing is holding the space and keeping the entertainment and the vibes high, because when they leave, they're going to reopen the port again. So the rebels have had a tremendous amount of success today, being able to stop the amount of fuel going out for a certain amount of time.
I just want to say that the fun that we have doing this belies the anxiety that we have towards what's happening to our planet. And the more fun we have, hopefully the more we can convince our politicians to get on board.
Well, no one wants to be part of a rebellion unless it's fun, do they?
Well, this rebellion is certainly fun.
When did you become a member of XR?
Just after the election, when it was looking to be really desperate, and the first thing I did was the October rebellion, and when Martin was arrested, and that was a lot of fun, and up until that point. So yeah.
Oh, what happened then?
Well, he was arrested. The police tried to break his arm, and he ended up in hospital. And he had terrible photos taken with very, very anxiety-ridden face. And he became, for a while, the poster boy of XR, I think.
What was Martin doing at that time?
We were sitting down in the middle of Haymarket, and we didn't realise that there was a whole row of police behind us, and they just came and picked us off one by one. And I think Gladys had told them XR's coming to town and this is the first time and let's get them. And so they arrested about 30 people.
So this was the first time Extinction Rebellion rebelled in Sydney?
Yeah, as far as I know. Well, certainly the first one that I was at. So it was and I think we got quite angry after that, and there's been nothing like that ever since. We've got, I think, a really good reputation with the police, but yeah, they were going to stamp us out from then because they'd heard what had happened in England, I think, when they'd taken over several bridges for 3 weeks or something. We weren't going to do anything like that.
We need more people first, don't we?
Well, certainly need more people, yeah. And COVID stopped a lot of things. Like the choir, we used to have 100 people in the choir. And now there's 3 of us here, I think, from the choir, so that's all. So yeah, but we get out there, and the fact that it's raining, I think, strengthens our case. The fact that we're silly enough to sit here in the rain and do this stuff, because we're committed. We're committed rebels.
Sounds like you're very committed there from the start and still doing XR actions. Have you got anything coming up next?
I don't think so, but I don't like to have too many things happening at once. I get confused between what's going on this one and that one. I'm getting too old for that. So I usually have to rest for 2 days after an action because I'm just exhausted. But it's a lot of fun, and for me it's how you meet the really cool people about the place.
People that care.
Yeah, no, they're wonderful. They're not people that I usually meet in my life, and so far I haven't been able to convince any of my friends to come and join us. They're just looking forward to sitting pretty and warm in the old folks' home.
And why
away from, well, fossil fuels in general, but specifically Australia, why the actions are.
We're having a bit of audio ripping from the amount of data that's feeding through the live stream at the moment, but we're currently crossing to the Oilies, the visual theatrical affinity group down in Tasmania, who are taking part in their solidarity part for the National Fuel Blockade today. They've got screen lock on their stream, which might annoy some of you, but and if there's any Tasmania people watching the stream who are out here, please let them know to turn their camera. But we'll leave you with Tasmania for a bit, and then we'll cross back.
I have to drive to get to work for two reasons. One is that I work a fair way. Nonetheless, I'm capable of transport.
We're currently in South Australia at the moment. Thanks for bearing with us through the technical difficulties. This is the fuel depot in Adelaide. The rebels over there have firmly attached themselves to the infrastructure, preventing any movement happening of any of the vehicles. As you can see, there's quite a few in there. Not sure to the degree that they knew about this one, but this action clearly has a truck parked right in front of them. So this was done with a very smooth amount of timing. And so these rebels, these brave rebels over here in Adelaide, are basically going to be staying until they are removed. And so we'll be staying with them throughout the day, including some of our bunnies who are live streaming directly from the fence. Those of you who don't know, a bunny is someone who is putting themselves in a position that is likely to involve arrest. And this is definitely no exception to that rule. These rebels have deliberately chosen to be in that position because they feel like it is the most important and necessary thing that they can do to try and halt the movement of fossil fuels, and indeed the continuation of extractivism as a way of keeping the economic machine turning. And so we'll stay with these rebels and we'll keep you up to date with what's happening all the way until they're finally removed.
Turn me round, ain't gonna let no politician turn me round, gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, till they keep the oil in the ground. Ain't gonna let injustice turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let injustice turn me round.
This is Wayne. G'day Wayne. How are you? What do you want to say?
We're sick and tired of the slow results we've been expecting from government and industry, and we're worried about our future generations and what they will be submitted to. Science is telling us that zero emission by 2050 is far too late. We need to do something and need to do it now. We're the last generation that can prevent our future generations from going through that torment.
Thanks, Wayne. I'm not sure whether you could hear Wayne because he's got to compete against a fossil fuel engine. This driver has left his engine running, which is quite a shame on a number of levels. Sarah, you are asking where we are today. We are at the mobile Birkenhead oil depot, just off Victoria Drive, Birkenhead, or you might call it Peterhead, where these huge petrol storage tanks are located. Anytime you drive in and pick up fuel in your car, you go to a petrol station, the fuel gets delivered to the petrol station in a tanker like this, and this is where the tankers fill up. This is where they get their petrol. Now obviously that's going to be inconvenient for people who want to fill up, but if we don't make the stand, if we don't point out the absolute stupidity of maintaining a reliance on fossil fuel, then it's going to keep going indefinitely. Our governments have refused to act. In fact, they've more than refused to act. They've actually subsidised fossil fuels. The federal government recently announced that it was going to subsidise more facilities of this type. It won't promote the use of electric vehicles, despite the fact that electric vehicles are quite powerful enough to service the Australian community. And electric vehicles are the way of the future. Electric vehicles powered by renewable energy. But no, the federal government is not just refusing to act. If it was refusing to act, that would be bad enough. But it's doing more than that. It's worse than that. The federal government is subsidising the use of fossil fuels. There are diesel fuel rebates. There are taxpayers' dollars going into building more facilities of this type. And only a couple of weeks ago, the federal government announced that it would be contributing hundreds of millions of dollars towards a gas-fired power plant in the Hunter Valley in New South Wales that nobody wants or needs and will hardly be used at all, if ever. You might have noticed a bit earlier, we have a couple of police cars on site. They were called not long ago when, of course, we began this action at the mobile Birkenhead fuel depot. Business as usual is death. A little bit of irony that the tanker driver won't even switch off his engine. How are you going, Anna?
I'm going really well, determined to stay here until our job is done.
Now what's that round your neck?
Okay, this is a bike chain. I've made a little furry cover for it to stop it for cold from getting onto my neck.
Yeah?
Yep. And this is our menu for the day.
Our menu for the day. Dirty air, dirty oceans, dirty lies, dirty deals. And the price? The earth.
Yes. And all Exxon made.
Well, congratulations, Exxon. We know what you stand for.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, now with Anna today, we have Keith.
Who is live streaming.
Taking it easy. On your live streaming too.
Yeah, I'm live streaming.
Both of us. All right, 2 live streams at once.
You're on my
Oh, okay, I'm on your live stream, you're on my live stream. Way, okay. Good stuff. And over here we have Chris, who sometimes live streams, but not today.
Yeah,
Hello, Chris.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, I wish we could get a little bit more clear air for the sound. Yeah, it's a little bit difficult with the truck. The driver won't turn off their engine. Bit of a pain. We have to inhale this stuff. We inhale it every day. The kids inhale it on the way to work. There's no way to opt out beyond opting out of fossil fuels. Yep. And we have Margaret there beside you. Hi, Margaret. Can I come down and have a word with you? Can you talk to Extinction Rebellion?
Well, I'm doing this because I have no power. We've got to get rid of fossil fuels. No one listens to the science. 40 years of lies from Exxon. I'm pissed off, so that's why I'm here.
On you, Margaret. I hope you can hear that over the noise of the huge oil tanker that is still in the driveway, still hoping to get in. Somebody's suggesting stick a sock in his exhaust pipe. Well, I'm not quite sure that would be safe. Well, nothing that ExxonMobil does is safe, of course, but we wouldn't want to make it any less safe. The whole company is built on pollution. This company's business model is destroying the planet. Can you ask him to turn the engine off?
Can't really direct him to do that.
No, I know. Okay, we're marking out a few Extinction Rebellion things on the footpath.
I'm going to cross now to Keith, who's on the fence down there. He's going to give us a rundown on what's going on.
I would imagine that the police officers are trying to work out what they can do with people who are locked to the gates.
Time does come to be arrested. If it does come to that today, which I'm assuming it's going to, I will be compliant. I'm not going to be violent. You're right. We totally. Oh, all right. Right up. Here we go. So this is Anna. How are you feeling? How are you feeling?
Good, excited. We're doing this for fun, and we're not doing this for profit.
No.
We're doing this for a very serious reason, as you'll know. So yeah, okay. And we try to make the best of it, but it's going to get cold out here tonight.
Yeah.
So hope everyone's rugged up. Wish us all the best.
So that's Anna. This is the first time I've stepped into an action like this with Anna, so I'm very excited about that. In fact, there's quite a few new people stepping into some courage today with us, which is amazing. I've got Chris, which I've done one action with in the very early days of my time with Extinction Rebellion, which was just a little dance on the street. So to be involved in this with Chris is it's inspiring. And
the media are on their way, so Harold's called everybody, and they're coming now. So we're going to have a bit of press today, which is good because don't do this every day.
No. Yeah. So I've also heard that the action in New South Wales has resulted in the port being closed, so that's kind of exciting. But touching back on what I was saying about Sergio, so it's been very obvious to me, and I'm going to just speak for a second of my experience with Extinction Rebellion, and I don't proceed to talk for anyone else but myself here, and this is just where I'm at. But so in South Australia, I'm not actually having much luck at rocking the boat here. I was on the southeastern freeway towards the end of last year, which slowed the freeway down, 6-lane freeway down from 110 to 30 kilometres for I think about 2 hours. And believe it or not, the biggest fine that was issued that day was for the lady who parked illegally on the side of the road to drop us off. I was then arrested in December for climbing a Christmas tree in the heart of the city and decorating it with messages of peace and love. So that's worthy of arrest. And doing that, a few days later after my arrest, I was contacted and all the charges were dropped.
Sergeant has arrived. So
Bear with me.
6:30 is probably too long from his point of view. What details do they know?
Will the officer give us till 6:25 to think about it?
I've told him that you are locked onto the gate and that you've locked the gate closed.
Okay, yep. Just out of curiosity, Sobin, is this Sobin?
That's escalator. I'm not sure what that seems to say that. When we get to the point where they're saying a hands-on resolution, I can break that news to them. Or you can break it to them when they're right up close to you.
Do you know, are we expecting police that we'd be familiar with, or are these... No, because, yeah, that's what I thought. So.
And I don't recognise any of them.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was going to assume. Yeah. Okay, so there's just a little bit of communication going on. So basically, we've said that we are prepared to unlock these and leave willingly at 6:30. The current time would be, I guess, just past 4. I'm not too sure. The police have told us that 6:30 is a bit of a stretch, but they're still asking for a peaceful resolution.
What's your proposal for resolving? And currently you're not offering me any resolution, is that right?
Resolutions to wait till 6:30.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're... Here we see, here we stay. Anything else you want me to say to the police?
Can we just is Margaret in on this conversation? I don't want to speak for Margaret. Yeah, I'm not speaking for Margaret. And
plenty of action happening down there in South Australia, and it does get pretty tense when you're on the fence down there. So it's a really good insight to have Rebels streaming from there. We're going to head back to the main stream for South Australia shortly. Basically, the amount of disruption that happens when there's vehicles involved and the police get there is a bit more tense than an action like what we're seeing in Sydney, where the blockade's already happened, and they've made it very unlikely that any confrontation is going to happen. So naturally, I think there is a bit of a push to try and get that situation cleaned up as quickly as possible. So there's going to be quite a bit of action out the front of there. We'll head back to SA shortly. We've got some more guests joining us, but in the meantime, here's South Australia.
And Margaret, you can see the ones chained on or locked on with the yellow around their necks. Just to recap for people, I'm losing my voice, sorry about that. Just to recap for those who might have just joined us, this is Extinction Rebellion South Australia, and we're broadcasting live from the mobile Birkenhead fuel terminal just north of Port Adelaide. Not quite sure whether it's Birkenhead or Peterhead. This is Wills Street here that comes off Victoria Drive. And all day, every day, petrol tankers, empty petrol tankers come in here and they fill up from here and they take the fuel back to your local service station. This is the industry that's been going on for decades. It's time we phase out this industry. Get the people who are working here, the people who are working in service stations, working instead in clean, renewable energy. And we're targeting this company, Mobil, and its association with the giant Exxon company in the United States, because we know, we've seen the figures, we've seen the facts, that they've been funding disinformation campaigns. Hundreds of millions of dollars have gone to disinformation campaigns over the past few decades, since the 1980s at least. This is a very busy industrial area. Some of the trucks coming down here are carting things other than fuel. It's not just the petrol tankers on this road, But this is the gate where the petrol tankers come in and out. After every petrol tanker comes in, the gate is locked, as the sign says, to prevent tailgating. So after that toll truck went in, about 4:25, the gate shut automatically, as it does, to prevent tailgating, and that was the signal for Extinction Rebellion to chain the gate shut so it could not be reopened. And then after the gate was chained shut, our Extinction Rebellion activists, the conscientious protectors, 5 of them, 5 very brave people, took the action to affix themselves. 1 glued on, 4 locked to the gate.
There are more Muslims dying than we know. There are more Muslims dying than we know. There are more Muslims dying than we find their way through them. There are more Muslims dying than we know. There are more Muslims dying than we know. We will wade through the water this we know. We will wade through the water this we know. We will wade through the water every day. We will wade through the water.
Truck driver's put his lights on to illuminate our sign.
This nifty trick of using spray chalk on the road is really effective at actions because it looks like you've spray painted all over the place, but it's chalk. But the rebels nonetheless are staying accountable for the actions that they're taking part in by doing this in full view of the police and the press and the public, despite the fact that they've got a truck running and very high stakes at their action over here. And so it's yeah, a really powerful action to see coming out of South Australia. We we'll come back to them as the action escalates. Right now, we're going to head back to Port Botany in Sydney, where it's gotten dark and a bit wetter, but spirits are still high and the action's still going.
You're right, the head of security at Mobile is coming here to talk to us or not?
We have no idea whether or not they're going to actually turn up. We know that the police are going to call them.
Because they are corrupt, because of crony capitalism, because of a sort of deep nihilism, an emptiness of any sort of vision, agenda, belief in the future. Scott Morrison calls himself some sort of Christian, as I understand it. I can't see that. I don't think he believes in anything at all.
Wow. I think I feel the same way about our government. Very negative, but positive that things are happening around the world.
Fingers crossed.
We made our point. We have made our point.
So, yes, I was just making a point that.
And of course, this is
I was here counting traffic this time of night a couple of weeks ago, or a week or so ago.
Scouting.
Scouting the place, but in particular counting the traffic. And at this, so people might think, oh, it's very quiet. Port must be, this time of night maybe there's no traffic. Normally at this time of night, in the 2 hours we're here, there's about 400 trucks come through here. So 5 trucks a minute sometimes. So we've closed down the whole port, not just the gas and fuel part of the port. So just people might think, what are we doing here? It's really quiet, but no, that's it. We've closed it down for 400 trucks an hour.
I saw a tanker come through before. Do you think they just didn't get the memo?
I think they just didn't get the memo and the police told them to disappear. So apparently there are a few tankers waiting in the truck car park over there, but the police weren't prepared to let him go through, so...
No, they told him to wait until 6 o'clock.
Yeah. So they're not even letting them in, still not letting them into the port yet, so it's an interesting way of operating. Yeah. Sorry?
They locked the gates.
Yeah. I mean, literally lock the gate. Yeah. Lock the gate.
We were only going to blockade the fuel tankers and let the others through. The police locked the gates.
But it's a similar effect with Galilee Blockade. We did we announced an action at EDA down at headquarters when we were against Stop Adani, and by the time we turned up, they'd already shown a film to everybody about what kind of action to expect, told everybody to work from home for the day, and this was pre-COVID, so pretty unusual. And then if anybody did turn up, they were not allowed to go outside, so they catered for lunch for everybody that worked there. So we just sort of went, well, you've done our job for us. You've educated the workers. And then not long after, EDI Downer pulled out of the Adani contract. So, yeah. So it's a pretty good method if you can blockade a port by negotiation.
Yeah. Because we were only going to blockade the fuel tankers, and we've blockaded everything. Thanks to the police and the help they've given us, we've blockaded the entire port for 2 hours.
It's interesting. I wonder what's happening down in Port. Oh no, Port Melbourne had to pull off because of their other lockdown.
But Adelaide, I think.
But also they had the. No, Melbourne had COVID lockdown and things as well, so they couldn't go ahead with the actual COVID lockdown.
Yeah. So tell us about this is a national day blockade. Tell us about.
Well, I don't know much about it. All I know that we were doing this one, and Port Melbourne was supposed to be happening as well. I don't know much more than that.
Adelaide is also should be live streaming at the same time. So, and next time we do it, we'll have more cities.
Well, who knows what we're going to be doing next time around.
So you do a lot of work for Stop Adani, do you?
No, well, with Galilee Blockade, I do stuff with Galilee Blockade as well as XR. Yeah. So, particularly office occupations and things like that. So, mostly we have pretty brief occupations. But I mean, we had one really interesting day. We did there was an announcement that Korean banks were going to lend some money to Adani. We occupied 2 offices in North Sydney on the same day, just to show we got a bit of strength. We did 2 at the same time, should I say. Very different reactions. One was sort of, oh my God, okay, we better do something about this. And the other was, what are you doing? They suddenly realise what they're doing. Some of the companies are prepared to pull out straight away. So, yeah.
What's that? Because they're not aware?
Well, previously they're not really aware of the reaction they're going to get. So if we get to them early and give them a good reaction in terms of showing them that, hey, this is what you're going to face in protests, then they just decide, well, it's not worth it. Well, why would we lend money to this lot? I mean, lots of considerations, but it's just part of the mix that we get in there and get the message across that you expect to have your name besmirched by us and your employees upset by us because we'll be poking their consciences about working for companies. Yeah, same with the big engineering companies like GHD, and I've forgotten AECOM as well. We did both of those with 2 of the big engineering companies, and as well as EDI Downer, and they just decided that as they couldn't afford to lose their professional employees who were really concerned about working for a company that was prepared to back Adani. So they decided it was too big a risk for their professionalism. So, yeah.
Wow, so you do a lot of activist work, it sounds like. Do you have much time to do anything else, or are you a full-time activist?
I'm retired. That's all I do. It's activism.
What were you doing? What were you doing before you retired?
I used to be in IT for a very, very long time, till certain things went wrong with the economy overall, and then I did all sorts of jobs. Interestingly, including a bit of, I did security work for about 18 months in city offices. So when we do office occupations, I can have a chat to the security that turns up quite nicely. So, I used to do this job, like, I know you're not allowed to even touch us, you're not allowed to do anything. So we can just chat about it rather than, pretend you're going to throw us out because you're not allowed to.
I see where you get your skills from now.
But, just be friendly with them, be friendly with the security, and they'll usually respond. No, it's not like bouncers on the pub. The office security is usually a lot more polite about it, as you might say. Yeah, then they know they can't use physical force to get rid of us. Yeah.
Are you involved with Extinction Rebellion's Money Rebellion?
Yes, we are involved with the NAB part of Money Rebellion. So we're targeting NAB at the moment. Yep. Which is fun as well. Yeah, lots of fun. They get pretty theatrical with the greenwashing actions and things like that. So yeah, usually I'm drumming as well, but I've lent my drum. We've got a new drummer, and I've lent my drum. So, and I'm supposed to be doing police liaison, so I should concentrate. But on the easier actions, I managed to combine police liaison and drumming, which is interesting.
Have you been chatting to the police today?
Just occasionally, yeah. They're a bit bored now, so I might go and chat to them again. I suggested we should have a coffee cart next time we do it, and they agreed. You could. That's an interesting idea, isn't it?
It's almost dinner time. We can eat our dinner and the police can watch.
Yeah.
We could offer them some, and they probably wouldn't want it.
No, I don't think they'd accept that.
No, but they can watch us eat our dinner.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're not getting nervous over there about.
Looks like they're having a grand old time over there, but their stream has just ended for some reason. So we're going to go back to South Australia. Just give me a moment. We're also still waiting to hear back from the court rebels from today, who were facing court for the Canberra budget actions, as well as the folks who were in front of the fuel location in Western Australia. So hopefully we can get to them shortly. But nonetheless, we're still streaming. If you're just joining us, this is the National Fuel Blockade for Extinction Rebellion. What is happening here is that a whole bunch of different Extinction Rebellion groups around the country are going to fuel depots and blockading the entrances in various different creative ways. And so the rebels who are taking part in the actions down there are trying to stop the trucks from entering, cause a bit of financial disruption, as well as to send a message that Extinction Rebellion is still here and is still going strong. Victoria's action was meant to happen today, but it got cancelled due to lockdown, although it will be rescheduled. We also saw from Tasmania rebels that they were doing a theatrical action down there with their Oilies affinity group, who dress up in quite grim looking outfits for their opposition to the use of crude oil as a source of energy, the various kinds of energy that creates. Extinction Rebellion has 3 demands, and these actions that we do will continue to happen and will happen in larger numbers as time goes on until those 3 demands are met, which are to tell the truth and declare a climate emergency. Second, to act now and bring reduction of greenhouse emissions to net zero by 2025. This is a necessary target. This is what the science says we need to do. 2050 targets are going to lock us into a 2 degrees of warming world by that point. The Arctic sea ice is already locked into being melted completely, regardless of the action that we take. So the climate isn't changing, the climate is changed, and we're no longer in a position where we can stop climate emergency from happening, but now we're trying to mitigate the symptoms of the crisis that has been created through the negligence of governments around the world. People say that we should use keep cups and we should make various different changes in our lives in order to deal with this. And while that may be a very important part of the moral stability of people like us who are taking to the streets, the time for waiting for individual action to create the change that's necessary has long passed. Blaming individuals for that has been a critically successful part of the campaigning over.
This is not a joke. None of the people here today really want to be here doing this. We would much rather we didn't have to point out that we'd like to live on a clean planet. We'd like to drive vehicles that do not make the atmosphere worse. We'd like to have a peaceful life and not need to do this. But because our governments won't be doing it anytime soon, we have to. For 40 years, ExxonMobil have known the truth. We're taking over the driveway. Now the tanker has left. In case you're just joining us and you're wondering what's going on, this is Extinction Rebellion South Australia, and we're coming to you live from the mobile Birkenhead oil terminal in Will Street. See those huge containers, those huge tanks behind me or in front of... Whoa! Nearly backed into a dog. Yay! We have four-legged help as well. It's our mascot for the day. Where we have, just to recap in case you missed it earlier, this is where oil tankers come, petrol tankers, when they're empty, to fill up and bring petrol back to your service station so you can fill your car's petrol tank. Tankers come and go from here at all hours of every day and night. They fill up and they take it back to service stations. This is the centre of fuel distribution. And what sort of fuel? No, it's not clean fuel. It's not renewable fuel. It's dirty fuel. It's fuel that, when it's burned in your internal combustion engine, It helps make the atmosphere just a little bit worse. Every time, every litre. So, to draw attention to this and the desperate need to transition to clean fuels, Extinction Rebellion activists, conscientious protectors, have locked themselves to this gate.
You'll be locked on here till 6:30 with a minimal presence. Okay. The officer now in charge of the situation has asked me to find out whether anyone has any intention of seeking access to this facility. Yeah. Is there any intention for anyone to go in? No? Not anyone? I'll confirm that with police. Pardon? No trucks. No trucks.
What are they doing? Are they going in the outdoor now?
I'm going to go out the outdoor for sure, and I don't know is the answer to that question.
Yeah, okay.
We were saying before that they're very linear, so they don't have the flexibility to change what they're doing. So actually, Harold's coming here. Maybe you can ask Harold. Harold, do you want to tell everybody else what you told me just before about the linear situation here?
Yeah, well look, it's simple.
This is the latest update.
When they do the fuel loading here, they need to have it go in a linear flow. This is a start point and the end point's out the other side. You can't just easily go and bring the trucks in another way. It doesn't work.
The yard's not big enough.
No, you can't do turnaround. So it's basically stalemate, locked. Yeah. How it goes. Now Channel 9 is on its way. They're on their way. Georgie just rang to see whether she could do an interview. So they're on the way. They'll have floodlights.
In case you missed that, the police asked through Mary, our police marshal, whether anyone of the protesters here had any intention to seek access to the site, and our conscientious protectors said no. They're happy to stay chained to the gate. They don't want access to the site, but they don't want the oil tankers to have access to the site either. So the stalemate will be on for the next however long. The idea was 6:30.
No, it's just a camera dude.
And while we've been live streaming for 40 odd minutes, the TV reporters have just turned up, or at least one TV reporter and camera has turned up to capture the action. Or should I say the lack of action, because, you know, we're not moving, we're not going anywhere. Extinction Rebellion South Australia has blocked the access to the mobile Birkenhead oil terminal, Wills Street at Birkenhead, Peterhead, just off Victoria Drive, which is just to the north of Port Adelaide. We've done this to draw attention to the dirty fuel that is sold to power your car, my car, just about every vehicle in Australia, because so few vehicles are powered by clean energy.
Harold with 2 A's, A and then another A after
Harold being interviewed by Channel 7.
We're confronting Exxon because they're one of the biggest contributors to the fossil fuel crisis that we have globally.
I'd like to get in closer and let you hear what Harold has to say, but I'm wary of getting in the shot for Channel 7 because we'd much rather have this, what Harold is saying, clearly enunciated on the Channel 7 news. That will reach potentially a wider audience than what I'm reaching right now with the live stream. The question, I've just seen a question from Moira. Moira, you asked, do police usually make such an interesting suggestion? Moira, to answer your question, the police didn't make a suggestion. They were genuinely wanting to know our intentions. Because if we could assure the police that we didn't have any intention of storming, the facility, getting inside or doing damage inside, then there was less need for them to stay here. So it's a win for the police that we can assure them that's not our intention, and it's basically de-escalated the issue as far as the police are concerned.
To remove us, but we haven't seen it yet. He pulled up and couldn't block the gate and locked onto the gate, so he couldn't proceed. The police decided to move him out because of safety. Pleasure.
Channel 7 reporter just asking there about the truck, the petrol tanker that was here, and the fact that he got moved out to make the situation safer for all. Now, Mai is being interviewed now. Mai is one of the lead organiser of this action. And as you might have heard earlier, Mai was in court today being sentenced for her part in the Santos gas action earlier this year. Should point out that a lot of planning goes into actions like this. We don't just, wake up. People didn't just wake up this morning and say, "Oh, I know, let's just go down to Mobile Birkenhead." There are Extinction Rebellion protests such as this, actions such as this, require a bit of planning. Not just preparation of the banners, but the timing that's involved, the decisions by people to do relatively risky things, such as lock themselves to the gate, or in Wayne's case, glue himself to the ground. If you would like to join Extinction Rebellion, you don't have to commit to the risky stuff like Margaret, Chris, Keith, Anna and Wayne. You can do things like singing, as July is doing, preparing banners, just holding banners. Or holding an XR flag. And all the focus is on the conscientious protectors, because they're the ones taking the bigger risk. You're standing there holding a flag. I was just saying on the live stream that, if you want to help Extinction Rebellion, you don't have to lock yourself to a gate. I mean, you can if you want, that would be helpful, but it's not the only thing you can do. Well, I know. The point I'm trying to make in my narrative is that there are a lot of roles in Extinction Rebellion for people to do things that aren't necessarily so high profile as locking yourself to a gate.
Exactly. Support people. We need so many more support people to hold banners, people to marshal, people bring snacks, people making banners. There's a lot of people that don't even come to protest that are support behind the scenes, and they're just invaluable. We need everyone, even if it's just people who write letters, who support people. Behind every person being arrested, there's probably hundreds of support people like you and I.
Thank you, Anna. Well said.
Indeed.
Yes, and Izzy here is quite often on live streaming
Yes,
as well.
I sometimes the other side of the camera, but I do not have Shane's stamina. I tell you, when it's a very long action, I think, I don't think I can do that. But yeah, so I'm here supporting with banners and flags and singing and just being a support.
You've been singing very well too.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. A little bit of a lull in proceedings, but we're not going anywhere. We're committed to staying here. I understand from the conscientious protectors who are locked on the gate that they're planning on being here until 6:30, and that's the basis of the truce, I believe. This is my understanding of what I've heard. Mobil's not going to insist that the police take action to remove us. I don't know that the police have actually seriously considered how they might get off people who are using a bicycle D-lock to put themselves on the gate. Okay, Chris is on TV now. Let's see. Well, being recorded by TV.
CHRISPOPHERJOHNSON. Thanks so much, Chris. No worries. Have a good one.
We missed that. Did you miss out, Margaret?
I didn't choose.
You choose not to do.
Was that okay?
Oh, well.
That's
Okay.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah.
Chris, I was caught up in my own monologue and I missed your part.
Yeah, sure, that's fine. Do you do the next? Yeah, maybe do Anna.
Okay, let's see if we can piggyback on the TV interview with Anna.
Sorry, I didn't even realise. I see your eyes. It's okay. Anna, take us through the situation you've got here. Okay, so we're Extinction Rebellion and we are absolutely fed up and appalled at the way both our government and the fossil fuel industry have colluded to stop any real action on climate change. And you know, it might look like we're a bunch of crazy people doing this, but we're not. We're just ordinary people who are extremely fed up with the rubbish that's told about this. These people are guilty, ExxonMobil here, but in fact the whole of our fossil fuel industry has to stop right now. The science is out. The latest climate modelling actually says that 2050 is going to be way too late. We need to have zero emissions by 2025, 2030 at the latest, if we're going to have any chance of avoiding a catastrophic climate crisis.
Sorry, I didn't catch it. What's your full name?
Okay, my name is Anna Slynn.
Yes, and the spelling of your first and last name?
Okay, Anna, A-N-N-A, and Slynn, S-L-Y-N-N.
Beautiful. And Anna, look, take us through how the few of you are sort of attached to the gate.
Okay, so I'm attached here, and these two here, and this one here, please. We're all attached like that. To the gate at Mobil Exxon. And this is the filling station where the trucks come in to fill up the fuel. And we've also chained the gate with a high tensile steel chain and padlock to come in.
That would essentially stop operation.
Yep. We're blocking the fuel trucks from coming in and filling up, hopefully till about 6:30.
And we understand Star Group officers may be on their way.
Yep, they are. They're on their way.
And do you know what they'll be trying to do? Or?
Well, I guess, I guess they'll do what Star officers do, which is assess the situation and work out how they can possibly resolve this and make sure that everyone stays safe.
You sound pretty emotional about it.
Absolutely, we are. We're very emotional. We're just very fed up and appalled by what's going on. This is, we're the last generation that has any chance to do anything about this. And I just keep thinking of what our grandchildren and our children, what we're leaving them, in terms of the earth, and it's just terrible.
Thanks so much, Anna.
That's a great time. Thank you.
Well done, Anna. I'm not sure whether you could hear everything that Anna said because I was a little bit further away from her than the TV cameras were. And I forgot to show you earlier what Anna was just talking about, which is this. That's a padlock to stop the gate opening. That was the very first thing we did, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yep.
So we came in, we put a high tensile chain around the two gates here and a high tensile steel lock which cannot be cut by padlocks, and then we locked on. So they can't open the gate while we're locked onto it.
Which is a very good safety safety thing for you. You wouldn't want the gate sliding along while you're locked to it. That could be a bit awkward.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I didn't realise Star Group officers on their way.
Yes.
Yeah, which doesn't mean they're going to forcibly get rid of you.
Of course not. They'll just assess the situation and see how they can basically resolve it with a minimal harm to property and people. So.
Yeah. And given that we're saying that we're not staying here indefinitely,
That's right.
we'll see.
We'll see.
Oh, sirens.
Here we go.
Is that for us? Are there sirens coming here for Extinction Rebellion or not? Probably not. We're not an emergency. We're not an emergency. The climate is the emergency. A group of Extinction Rebellion activists locked to a fuel distribution centre. It's not a refinery, is it? No, it's a fuel distribution depot. We're not the emergency. We're trying to draw attention to the real emergency, the climate emergency that our own federal government seems so reluctant to deal with. Not seems so. They are not only reluctant to deal with it, but they're actively choosing policies to make it worse by subsidising the use of fossil fuels, by putting taxpayers' money into production and consumption of more fossil fuels.
We're trying to get onto some of the rebels around the other actions, but it's a bit of a hiccup with the software that we've got going on here.
Your children, your
but
grandchildren.
we're doing our best to resolve that. This is our first time having a go at doing this, but the rebels at South Australia are still staunch. They're still staying until they're removed. It looks like spirits are high. You've just seen some excellent police liaison work and some really good media interviews with the bunnies, most of whom are not usually there to be spokespeople. They're just speaking straight from the heart, which is one of the most powerful things that you can do as one of these rebels here, because they are just sacrificing their liberty in the biggest possible way, and so they've got plenty to say about where they see themselves fitting into the action and what it can do for the movement and how much disruption they can cause. We're probably going to go back to South Australia. Might see if we can get Keith's live stream going, but the sort of way that the states are doing their streams is they're doing it on a whole bunch of different pages, so you can find a lot of local groups are streaming at these actions, and it's not very easy to keep track of it because they keep starting and stopping. But nonetheless, I'm sort of just, if you're joining us now, this is the National Blockade for Fossil Fuels by Extinction Rebellion. We're participating in direct action at fossil fuel industries to try and stop the delivery of fuel for the day. The extremity of the situation is calling for drastic action, and while it may seem extreme or radical, it's actually with the best possible science, it's the most effective mechanism that we have and the most necessary, because we've tried everything else. We've written letters to politicians and we've picketed outside of Parliament House and we've done things the nice way and been ignored. And now that we have some people locked onto the gates down at Port Adelaide, all of a sudden we've got news crews showing up, police showing up, interest coming in from the public, lots of comments happening on the live stream, generally fostering a bit of a crisis is the very much the gist, and it is creating a tension so big that it's impossible to ignore, and we're seeing that happening. We're seeing that happen directly, and it's quite effective at getting attention. It's also quite effective at stopping the machine from running. So you can sort of start to see that with a lot of these actions happening in different cities all at the same time, we're starting to have quite a bit of a splash and a bit of impact increasing as time goes on along this live stream. We'll get back to you with our cross to Sydney, but in the meantime, we're going to head back to Adelaide, where the police are starting to threaten the escalating charges.
2005. Shame. Exxon is still investing tens of billions of dollars to expand their fossil fuel infrastructure. The Australian government continues to collude in these climate crimes, funding the fossil fuel industry with $10.3 billion of taxpayers' money in this financial year alone. Just imagine what you could do with $10.3 billion. The Australian government refuses to commit even to a 2050 zero emissions target. This is madness writ large. The latest modelling in climate science is so clear. 2050 is way too late.
Too late! Too late! Too late! Death sentence!
The world needs drastic emissions cuts by 2025 to avoid the looming climate and extinction disasters. Huge food shortages, mass refugees and a hot house Earth. We demand a citizens' assembly to steer us away from the climate crisis abyss, and we need it fast.
We need it yesterday. Not tomorrow.
We hold the following to be true. This is our darkest hour. Humanity finds itself embroiled in an event unprecedented in its history, one which, unless immediately addressed, will catapult us further into destruction of all we hold dear, this nation, its peoples, our ecosystem and the future of generations to come. The science is clear. We are in the middle of the sixth mass extinction, and we will face catastrophe if we do not act swiftly and robustly. While causing tens of thousands to die. The breakdown of our climate has begun. There will be more wildfires, unpredictable superstorms, increasing famine and untold drought as food supplies and fresh water disappear. The ecological crises that are impacting upon the nation and this planet, and excuse me, having this thing around your neck is heaps comfortable, can no longer be ignored, denied or go unanswered by any beings of sound rational mind, ethical conscience, moral concern or spiritual belief. In accordance with these values, the virtues of truth and the weight of scientific evidence, we declare it is our duty to act on behalf of the security and well-being of our children, our communities and the future of the planet itself. We, in alignment with our consciousness and our reasoning, declare ourselves in rebellion against our government and the corrupt, inept institutions that threaten my future, your future, all our futures. The willful complicity displayed by our government has shattered meaningful democracy and cast aside the common interest in favour of short-term gain and private profit. When government and the law fail to provide any assurance of adequate protection and of security for its people's well-being and the nation's future, it becomes the right of citizens to seek redress in order to restore dutiful democracy and to secure the solutions needed to avert catastrophe and protect the future. It becomes not only our right but our sacred civil duty to rebel. We hereby declare the bonds of social contract to be null and void. The government has rendered them invalid by its continuing failure
to act appropriately. We call upon every principled and peaceful citizen to rise with us. We demand to be heard, to apply informed solutions to these ecological crises and to create a national assembly of which to initiate those solutions needed to change our present cataclysmic course. We refuse to bequeath a dying planet to future generations by failing to act now. We act in peace. With ferocious love of these lands in our hearts, we act on the behalf of life.
That was Keith, who is one of the 4 Extinction Rebellion conscientious protectors who has padlocked his neck, or locked his neck to the gate using a bicycle D-lock. What gate is it? Well, if you just joined us, it's the mobile Exxon, the mobile Birkenhead fuel distribution point in the northern suburbs of Adelaide. You see those huge tanks behind the gate. That's where petrol is stored before being distributed to petrol stations all around the place. And this is an action by Extinction Rebellion South Australia, coinciding with similar actions in other states of Australia today to draw attention to the lies that have been spread by Mobil over decades, downplaying the seriousness of the climate crisis, which their product is basically making worse every hour of every day. I must say the lighting's very effective here. I wish I wasn't planning on that, but it's highlighting our rebels very well. Our police liaison people have just come back to have a chat. They might have learned something from what the police are now planning, if anything. Let's see what Mary is going to tell them. Is there, I'd like to see.
We're recording what's happening. We've drawn the police's attention just in case there's anything of concern, but I think it's going to be pretty uneventful. I think so. I think the police are just going to wait it out.
You happy with that, Keith?
Me? No, not at all.
No.
No, I'm tempted to stay on after the 6:30 mark.
You were hoping to be arrested, weren't you?
Well,
I mean, not hoping, but
not
fully
hoping.
expecting. Yep.
Well, I want to talk about the Australia, in my humble opinion, Australia's most influential activist at the moment, by the name of Sergio, and he's currently imprisoned at the moment. And he has done a call out. He wants rebels to join him in the prison system, and I fundamentally believe that that's where we've got to be. That's where change is going to be made. I'm getting beyond sick of not being taken serious. I was in the action with Dave McAvoy where we slowed down the southeastern freeway for 90 minutes, and believe it or not, the largest fine issued on that day was for the person who parked the car illegally on the side of the road.
Yeah.
I was arrested with mine in December for the Christmas tree action, and all charges were dropped.
Police must be sick of having to come to things like this.
Well, it's not so much that I'm being sick of it, man. It's that
no, the police must be.
The police must be. No, the police they're not
That's their
taking it
job.
too serious. Like, I mean, the police. I got a lot of respect for the police and the job that they do. I think that they know that we're non-peaceful. They know that we're not. No one here is a threat. Like, we're causing a bit of disruption. We're causing a bit of financial disruption. But they know we don't cause any risk to anyone. So they've got other things to do tonight. So that's why they're not here. But what I am getting sick of, though, is like the action in March that was in trial today. You know, that was initially 6 rebels arrested and 18 charges. In sentencing today, no thank you. In sentencing today, it was 2 rebels on 2 charges, and there was no conviction and there was no penalty. Now that's a great win for the rebels involved, man. But as far as changing anything, it's achieved nothing. You know, like we need to get in to the systems. Like, if they don't want us in the prison, then going to prison is an act of disobedience in itself. If they don't want me there, that's where I need to be. And I'm afraid that, like, I mean, if this isn't empowering people, I don't know what is. I have chained myself to the gate of one of the state's largest fuel distribution centres, and the police aren't even, like, rocking up, man. Like, so you don't even have to demonstrate a lot of courage at this point to do any of this stuff, because we're not being taken serious. Nothing's happening fast enough. And I'm getting fucking beyond annoyed, man. That they're listening to us, but nothing's fucking being done.
I can feel your frustration. And yeah, I mean, the whole point of what we do is disruption, civil disobedience. And we do have to disrupt.
Just walk away. Oh, that's cool. Oh, I'm on stream.
Oh, you weren't. Oh, well, I think we just caught the last moment of that, Chris.
That's all right.
We've just what I've understood is that they're just going to wait us out, and 6:30 everyone walks away and nobody gets arrested.
That's great. Well, yeah.
Oh,
shit! It looked like that guy was about to indicate to turn in.
Yeah, psychic tanker.
Yeah, jeez. But so this is good. It looks like the media have brought out some really nice lights to help with the live stream. Really thoughtful of them.
Yes.
Hopefully we don't get a copyright strike on the music that was playing before. So
yeah. But yeah, well, I mean, the whole point of civil disobedience is peaceful civil disobedience to make an impact. Because if you don't do that, people ignore you. And Keith's upset that even this is, you know, they're going to ignore us after this little interruption.
And continue to ignore us until
we would have to be doing this every day.
On a regular basis.
Yeah.
I mean, another question for people watching. So we've got Channel 7 and Channel 9 here. In South Australia, Channel 10 has had a bunch of cuts recently, so they don't have a lot of people on the ground. But where's the ABC?
Yeah.
Why haven't they shown up today?
Yeah. ABC doesn't seem to want to cover climate actions.
Yeah.
And I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think the
future of the planet
broadcaster would be here.
The future of the planet's at stake.
Yeah.
What do we have more serious?
What do we have to do, Shane, to get him out?
I wish I knew. I have to wonder, you know, what is more serious than the future of the planet?
Yeah. Well, they'll cover the consequences.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they'll put the other thing that happens as well. A lot of these outlets at the moment are putting out articles and things where it says, if we do this, then we'll be able to keep under 1.5 degrees. That's not conveying the urgency.
When do we need it? Now! What do we want? When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Climate action. When do we need it? Now! What do we need? Climate action. When do we need it? Now! What do we need? Climate action. When do we need it? Now! What do we want? Climate action. When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Climate action. When do we want it? Now! Woo!
Woo!
Got my voice out.
Climate emergency! This is a climate emergency!
Yes, it is a climate emergency. The whole idea of civil disobedience is, of course, to disrupt business as usual. I mean, Extinction Rebellion didn't think of peaceful civil disobedience. I think it was Gandhi, wasn't it? Maybe it preceded Gandhi as well, but Gandhi certainly popularized it in India in the 1940s.
I want everyone present today to realise just how little people are actually taking us seriously here today. We've got 4 people chained onto the gate of a fuel distribution centre, and there's not even a very strong police presence. I don't feel we're being taken very seriously here.
Well done. Well, Keith's probably right, and that means that Extinction Rebellion will be learning from this action. We'll go back, we'll think about what happened here today, and we'll plan for our next action. We'll see what happened in similar actions in other cities around Australia today, and it's an iterative process. We have to keep updating our tactics, but we don't update our message, because the message is very, very, very clear.
When do we want out? Now! What do we want? Action! When do we want out? Now! What do we want? Action! And how are we gonna get it? How are we gonna get it? Fight for it! Fight for it! How are we gonna get it? That's true.
Lock on the gate. Lock the gate.
Have you been on TV yet?
I haven't.
Oh, what a shame. They're ignoring the banner holders. Oh, we're singing now.
What are they doing? Taking.
So just a quick update on what's happening around the nation is that we've got our action at Port Botany has wrapped up. It finished at the time that it was designated to, and the rebels are heading over to have a debrief now. So they successfully blockaded that location and with quite a bit of assistance, which was a great result today. The rebels in Tasmania with their theatrical action have officially finished, and they have also moved on to debriefing. We're trying to get through. Our call system isn't working at the moment, so we haven't been able to get through to Western Australia or Victoria. There is a rebel down here in Victoria who's doing some projections at the moment, who's trying to get onto the system, but that hasn't been as successful. Western Australia had their action earlier today, which was quite successful, quite low-key. We've been trying to get in touch with them to no avail, and so we're going to be streaming here on South Australia until the last person is taken off, and so yeah, I'll be with you here at the cockpit for the time being, trying to sort out the tech, and hopefully we can get through to the other states to try and get some more of an update from them. So thanks for staying tuned and keep the spirits high. The rebellion is going.
Singing for our lives. We are gentle, angry people, and we're singing for our lives.
Okay, Wayne, I'm going to take the opportunity now to come back to you. If you were here at the very beginning of this, I tried to interview Wayne, and there was a petrol tanker in the driveway making a hell of a noise. Tell me now what you told me back then, Wayne, if you can remember, or anything similar. Why are you here? Why are you glued on to the driveway?
We're here because we're tired of waiting for our government to move on the climate crisis. I've heard a lot of things tonight. I'm just repeating a lot of other people's views, I guess. But over the next 10 years, scientists are predicting that we will lose 1 million species. That's how dire this crisis is. We are situated at the top of the food chain, so that affects us as well. We could be one of those species that go extinct. We will certainly face food shortages, dire climate conditions, more bushfires, more floods, more drought. And we're here to try and get the government to speed up, to do something so that future generations don't face these uncomfortable positions. It will certainly be worse than it is today. We can avoid some of the climate change that's going to happen, but we need to avoid the worst of it, and that's why we're here to try and speed this recovery up.
Thanks, Wayne.
You're welcome.
Good on you. And Wayne is glued on. His hand is glued.
Folks, listen up. The fossil fuel and mining interests have captured the state. They have achieved state capture, and some are even writing the laws that govern them, to wit BP and Exxon, BP in particular, up at Roxby Downs. Governments are effectively colluding in the corruption of fair and good governments and real democracy. We are presently in a dumb-democracy, and we demand real democracy. These are blatant climate lies that must be stopped for the sake of all humanity and the earth. Shell has been stopped. We are here demanding that the climate crimes stop. Exxon, stop and save. We demand that citizens' assemblies be set up to ensure that governments work to protect the earth and our enduring viability, and not the vested interests of profit at all costs.
Anybody who hasn't been on the live stream want to say a few words to our XR supporters? Whose hand went up then? Oh, take the megaphone. Okay, Anna's going to say a few words. Anna is our lead conscientious protector, one of the 4 who've locked herself to the gate. One of the 4 who've locked themselves to the gate of the mobile Birkenhead Fuel Distribution Centre. This is where your petrol comes from every time you fill up at a petrol station. See those big tanks? That's where we are. Where the petrol tankers normally are coming in and out of this gate, but not tonight. We've blocked it for a couple of hours at least.
Okay.
You're getting ready, Anna.
Okay. Can I have the big megaphone because I actually wanted to say to people here?
Here we go. This is going on the megaphone. Just to recap, there's 4 activists who've locked themselves to the gate, and one, Wayne, who's glued himself to the driveway.
Can I have your attention, please? I am now locked to the gate. I have 3 people with me that are locked to this gate. This is Extinction Rebellion. We might be small in number, and we are the toppy waves. But what we need is a tsunami of people to get behind this and push until we break through the wall of government and industry complacency. The fact that we are here and there's only a few of us demonstrates the complacency like nothing else. Yeah. You might think we're a bunch of crazy people to be doing this, but the fact is we are just ordinary people. Thanks, mate. We are just ordinary people who are listening to the climate science and are appalled and fed up. with the lack of necessary action by our governments and industries. Mass extinctions, undrinkable water, unbreathable air, untillable soil, unbearable heat, and wave after wave of catastrophic weather events. This will be our legacy to the next generation if we keep on with business as usual. Think of your children and your grandchildren and how difficult it will be for them just to survive. We are the last generation that can do anything about this. So come on, people. Time to clean up the mess we've made of this planet.
Give it up to all the CPs.
Well, I said, give it up for all the CPs. CP stands for Conscientious Protector. And that's what we call the climate activists who put themselves at risk of arrest or injury, put themselves in harm's way because they see no other way to make an impact, to get governments to listen, to get the community to listen, so that people realise the extent of the danger facing the planet. And the fact, as the sign says, that fossil fuels cost the Earth. Just stepping back to give you an idea of what's going on here, it is not a large protest. Somebody said just before that we should have had more. Well, that's true, we could have had more. We actually made the decision to keep this a small number of people involved. There are a lot more people in Extinction Rebellion, many of whom would have been happy to join us here. But we considered this might have been a high-risk action. We thought perhaps Mobil would have persuaded the police of a necessity to get us.
So we've got a bit of a backup plan with the calls happening at the moment. We've got a rebel on the line from the action that was going to happen in Victoria, and we're going to do it the dodgy way with a bit of screen capture technology. So it's gonna be a bit, maybe let's see. And with that, we're going to move back onto South Australia. Things are starting to escalate over there. Thanks very much for bearing with us. We're learning as much as we're delivering here, and we're doing all we can to stop this absolute catastrophe that is the collapse of the environment, our ecosystems, and our society in general. And action needs to happen, and nothing is too far outside of the box for taking action. So thanks for being with us, and hopefully you're finding a bit of inspiration to take part in action at the moment. We'll be with you for the remainder of this action, and we'll try and get a hold of New South Wales and WA with our new makeshift calling system, and we'll be back. So thanks everyone, and share the stream around, because we've got some brave rebels who are about to be arrested. Thanks.
Anyone who knows anything about the science knows that, and yet here we are in Australia in 2021 as the climate crisis worsens, still pouring millions and millions of taxpayers' money, not to mention the private investments of Mobil, of course. We're talking about taxpayers' money that the federal government is committing to more fossil fuel projects and subsidising the consumption of fossil fuels. I just can't believe that I have to say that, that we have to point that out. It's okay. I guess on an Extinction Rebellion live feed, I'm preaching to the converted. It's reaching the other people that matters, reaching those who don't know or haven't yet grasped the seriousness of this planet's plight. That's the important thing, and perhaps Channel 7 and Channel 9 can draw a little bit of attention to that in their 6 o'clock newses this evening. Here are our climate activists.
Together we shall not be moved, just like a tree that's standing by the water. We shall not be moved. Stand and fight together. We shall not be moved. Stand and fight together. We shall not be moved, just like a tree that's standing by the water. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved, just like a tree that's standing by the water. We shall not be moved. We'll get through this together. We shall not be moved. We'll get through this together. We shall not be moved, just like a tree standing by the water. We shall not be
moved. We shall not be moved, just like a tree standing by the water. That was a supporter. We're in a really industrial part of the Adelaide suburbs. Wills Street at Peterhead is not exactly a suburban spot. There's not a lot of houses around here. We've got not only the huge tanks of the Mobil fuel distribution, But across the road, there's some more huge tanks, and I'm not actually sure what's in them. But yeah, it's not residential. That, I think, is Adelaide Brighton Cement, just off Victoria Road.
We've got a rebel who's just joined us on the Zoom conference from WA, who we're going to cross to now. Hi, Kelly. How you doing? Thanks for sticking with us. Finally, we've made contact with Western Australia. Thanks for taking part in our national fuel blockade this week. It's been really nice to get to know all the WA people during the communication stage before the actions today. Do you want to tell us a bit about what the WA action was like? And what was it like being part of sort of organizing a national rebellion, getting to know people from interstate on Zoom calls? I'm So what's going on here is that we have lost the audio again. So I'm just gonna do a quick rundown on how to use the audio section. That's definitely not working. I am probably not gonna be able to get the audio working in time, unfortunately. Kelly, thanks for joining us nonetheless. If you're able to give everyone an update in the comments section, maybe on the national live stream, that'd be really good. But we've still got a bit of learning to do on how to operate this machine, I think. All right, so thanks, Kelly. My word, it's just one technicality after the other, but nonetheless, we have some brave rebels who are still taking to the streets in South Australia, demanding that the now I've lost audio. The rebels in South Australia remaining headstrong, trying to disrupt economically and socially the movement of the fossil fuel industry today, and to send a clear message that Extinction Rebellion are going to continue with direct action and civil disobedience until our 3 demands are met. It is dark as all hell over there, but they are rugged up and ready to settle in, I think. The action's gone on definitely now longer than they'd anticipated originally, which is a very gutsy move from all of these rebels. The situation at the moment is that we couldn't get the audio through from Kelly. However, Kelly was explaining that the WA action today was organised by a local group whose first action it was, and so it just goes to show that from the I guess the different levels of experience coming in and the different ways that this fuel blockade is manifested throughout the day is quite varied and diverse. We've got, rebels who are glued on. We've also got people who are doing theatrical actions down in Tasmania, and we've also got plenty of action happening on the Zoom calls and plenty of blockade actions happening around the country. So it's becoming really, it's good to connect at a national level, because we're starting to, I guess, increase that incentive that we have to really kickstart the movement and to mobilize people on a mass level. If you'd like to join Extinction Rebellion, our website is ausrebellion.earth, AUSrebellion.earth. Sign up at the Get Involved tab. Make sure you put your postcode in, and then someone from your area will get in touch with you and let you know exactly how you can go from watching the live stream to getting onto this gate or helping someone do exactly the same thing. We've got plenty of roles being fulfilled at this action here. We've obviously got rebels doing regen. You can see there's people wearing high-vis who are taking care of people, making sure that everyone's details are taken down. There's arrestee support out there helping out with the progression of events and making sure that the rebels are accounted for once they're in police custody. We have a dedicated team who make sure that nobody gets left behind, and whenever people get arrested, we do our absolute best to make sure that it is as easy and comfortable as possible for those people. And so we've also got a police liaison who does negotiating with the police on behalf of the group to maintain security, as well as to make sure that the police are treating the activists with care. The banner holders are a really important job. They're a bit of the unsung heroes of these actions, because the people who hold the banners often do a lot of the initial blocking, and then their job primarily is to provide the message while holding the space and making sure that the rebels who are locked on are not sitting there on their own, but rather are supported by people who are helping make sure that people are not going to try and shimmy around them, and so on. We've also got live streamers. We've got a great training that teaches people how to do the live stream. So we've got a good team surrounding our internal media as well as external media. We've got people at these actions who go along and chat to the people about what's going to happen at the action and provide a press release to a number of media outlets which explains why the press were able to make it to the location. And we also have people observing to make sure that the police are behaving in a just way, and spokespeople who are willing to get in front of the camera and say a couple of things about why we're here, what we're doing, and where we're going. There's people singing songs. At this particular action, they've got quite an extensive songbook. Other actions, sometimes they sort of just get improvised or led by a really keen musical rebel, but these songs have really creative lyrics, and it's really good to have them there. I'll leave you with the stream so I can shut up for a bit, and we will be
They've got to go to
We will be answering any of your questions that you may have throughout the stream. So thanks for sticking with us, and jump onto the website. I'm sure someone will throw that into the chat. Thanks.
Why be so stupid and stay in fossils?
Yep.
It's madness.
These will be stranded assets very soon. One hopes, inevitably.
Extract every last bit of money they can before they can't run their business.
Jason has asked how much fuel did all the vehicles use to get everyone to the protest. Jason, I came on my bike. Thanks for asking. And yeah, some of the protesters here came in a vehicle that burned fuel, because as we've already mentioned, that's the way people have to get around. Lots of people who care very, very much about the climate don't have any option to get around other than to use fossil fuel that comes from here. Wouldn't it be great if the government helped their transition? We're not wanting to make enemies out of every person who has a petrol-driven engine in their car. That would be crazy. We want everyone who drives a petrol engine car to help us persuade the federal government to help the transition to renewable energy, because to not do that is to condemn life on this planet to extinction, and we are rebelling against extinction. I was waiting for somebody to ask the question, Jason. Thank you. I think we're winding up soon. Now Wayne, who was glued, is being unglued.
It's almost there, not quite.
It's not an easy task to unglue someone.
Mine last bit stuck too, and
I think is it called acetone?
Yeah, we've got acetone.
Yep. And it doesn't just like dissolve instantly. There's a little bit of work to be done. It's basically nail polish remover, isn't it? Well, the main ingredient in nail polish remover. So I'm thinking my battery is about to run down. I think we've done what we need to do here. Our live stream has reached, I don't know how many people.
Yeah. Well, thanks everyone for watching.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate it, and hope you appreciate what we're doing as well. And come join us. We need more people doing this. En masse, we can really make a difference. So rebel for life.
Rebel for life. I like that.
Yes, rebel.
Okay.
It's the only way.
You're still locked on though, Margaret and Chris?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. You'll be coming off soon.
Yeah.
But I've got a low battery warning. And even though Margaret and Chris and Keith and Anna are still locked on, and Wayne is being removed. Oh, he's got his hand off.
When the hairdresser.
So, how's the hand feeling, Wayne?
Do you want some water for that, Wayne?
Oh, I've got wet wipes.
Yeah.
Water to rinse it off. I'll organise something.
How's it feel?
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah,
You're all right?
Sandy.
Good on you.
I've got a bottle of water.
There we go. So one is free. Anna, you're off now. Okay. So this is winding up. So I'm going to sign off before my battery runs out. And thank you everyone for watching.
We held it up for 2.5 hours.
Congratulations, Extinction Rebellion.
There was trucks lined up down the road, couldn't come in to fill up for their petrol for the long weekend. Woohoo!
They'll be waiting for us to go so they can get on to it. Thanks for watching. This is Extinction Rebellion, South Australia. Over and out from the mobile Birkenhead fuel depot.
And that looks like the last of the footage we're going to get from that action today. Live streamers, hot tip, make sure you've got a battery pack in your pocket. It really helps, especially if you're the bunny. I know a couple of the bunnies' phones went flat as well. So we've had a total of 5 actions happen today. We've been able to get a picture of most of them into this live stream. Extinction Rebellion has blockaded a number of fossil fuel depots around Australia to make clear that the fossil fuel industry is not only complicit but is directly part of causing the state of climate and ecological collapse that we're currently facing. And so what the rebels have done is blockaded those entrances with a really light, creative, colourful, musical, funny, satirical, disruptive kind of action to try and show that what we are here to do is to be non-violent, but to be the brakes on that train and to be as as peaceful as possible while being accountable for the fact that in true civil disobedience you break the laws that you feel are unjust, and it is no longer justified to burn fossil fuels. And so these rebels, brave rebels still attached to the infrastructure out there, are showing us all the extent to which this crisis is affecting people and I guess the skin in the game that everybody has. Non-violence is a very old tactic. It's not very old in the grand scheme of history, but has really been pioneered as a remarkably effective force for change. Extinction Rebellion was a carefully planned movement, and in deciding the tactics that we were going to use to try and get the change to happen at the macro level, we knew that violence wouldn't work, but protest wouldn't either. And so entering into a mode of civil resistance where we use our bodies and I guess the greater spirit of having a mass movement to try and get in front of that infrastructure and that create that economic disruption. And sure, one action that's over in a couple of hours probably isn't going to do the trick, but a sustained increase in the amount of actions that happen will start to create a pretty hefty financial toll, to the point where decisions begin to have to be made about whether or not they're going to keep policing this. And we know that that's the case because we've seen it happen historically. We've seen it happen recently, particularly in the States with the effectiveness that social movements have had in trying to enforce change at the state and federal levels. In Australia, we've been very active in climate activism for a very long time. Our First Peoples have certainly been doing it a lot longer than the mainstream zeitgeist has been aware of. The actions that are taking place at the moment are all part of a, I guess, linear and exponential growth that we're hoping to see this year. So if you want to help us organize the next action, or if you just want to be another, I guess, human on the streets with us, we really need you to join us, because what is happening now is not simply a symbolic display of, yeah, we're here and we care about the environment. This is about preventing the extinction of the human race, and that is no exaggeration. With 4 degrees of warming, it is almost impossible to sustain life on the planet, and that doesn't even take into account the runaway greenhouse effect. We're at 500 parts per million of carbon equivalent, which doesn't mean much to a lot of people because it's just a number and it's just science, but it has tremendous effects, and it will affect a lot of other countries before it affects ours. and it will affect different people in different ways, but it is going to hurtle us towards extinction, because when you have 2 degrees of warming and the crops start failing, the price of those crops goes up, and then only the wealthy can afford those crops. And then once you have sort of a severe weather event in the cycle of growing food, you suddenly find that it is ultimately going to lead to all those crops failing. And when that happens and you can't feed people while the earth is simultaneously heating up, you get suffering on a mass level. This isn't just 30 centimeters of sea level rise. This is the exponential destruction of everything that we face. And so we are committed to non-violence, and we will continue to take part in civil disobedience for as long as we need to, in various different forms. We'll be on the streets in all the capital cities. We'll be back in the national capital. There'll be more fuel blockade. There'll be more blockading of banks. The campaign to stop these new gas and coal plants will continue, and more people will join us every day, because what needs to happen is really, really drastic action. And it might seem extreme or radical or unachievable to the people who see people locked onto a gate, might even seem hopeless. But in my humble opinion, the extremist is the one who says that we are willing to have more warming, or that we will choose to ignore the science and to try and make some money off what resources are left in the ground. Especially in Australia, it's one of the worst countries for this. And so we are putting a call out to anyone who wants to be involved with building a mass movement to join Extinction Rebellion now. And bring your friends, bring your family, bring your neighbor, bring your pets, bring your kids, because we need to exponentially grow this movement before it's too late. And though some say it may already be too late, we have to correct this runaway course of global heating that we're facing at the moment, protect our native wildlife, protect our children, protect the future of all of humanity and our ability to thrive on this planet. So Extinction Rebellion has your back. We can teach you anything you want to learn. We can help you with your climate grief, and we will continue to take action, and we will not stop until our 3 demands are met. So that's the call, and that is my, signing off from this live stream. I hope everyone's had a well enough time dealing with the audio ripping and the silence and the calls not working and all of that. We're piloting this for the first time and didn't get a great deal of effective rehearsal in beforehand. But what we're trying to do here is to show you that this isn't just one group. This isn't just 5 people. This is thousands of people in hundreds of different groups around this country who are devoted to the same thing that you are, and that's protecting a safe future for everyone to live in. And so, thanks for joining us. We will see you at the next one, maybe sooner than you think. And we will continue to rebel as long as there is still rebellion to be had, which is ultimately our motto, is rebel for life. Because I suppose you could read it rebel for life, but rebel for life means that civil disobedience is a tactic, and civil disobedience will always be required. And at least in the form of Extinction Rebellion, we will continue until those 3 demands are met. Those are, I didn't even read them all out earlier. The first is that we want the federal government to declare a climate and ecological emergency. The second is that we want them to act now and reduce emissions to net zero by 2025, because that is the necessary time to do that. And we want decisions on what will happen with the workers and what will happen with the land and what will happen with the emissions to be decided by a citizens' assembly, which is essentially a big jury that will make informed decisions and inform the government as to what their choices should be, rather than that happening the other way around, because our democracy is broken and it needs to be fixed. So If you'd like to get involved, join us. Otherwise, thanks for joining us, and rebel for life.